came here as an immigrant and fortunately built a good business, and thank God in a position that I can do what I want to today.
It's truly the American dream. I mean, breaking your leg and then having to bring in somebody to help you and now being here today, it's absolutely awesome.
Wow. I wish I knew a lot of what I knew now.
Welcome to the Rebolt Rundown. Today, we're with Byron Burland, a man who's lived through every phase of the service business journey. From knocking on doors to running a multi-million-dollar operation, Byron has seen firsthand what it takes to succeed through recessions, reinventions, and the evolution of the trades. His story is truly the blueprint for living the American dream. Let's get into it.
All right, so we are here with Byron Burland, the CEO of Besser Garage Doors, also Safe and Secure, the president of the IDA, a tradesman of 20 years, an incredible person as well. I have obviously personal connection to Byron. I can't speak enough great words about him. We're excited to have you here on the Rebolt podcast, share a little bit more about your journey and help the younger tradesmen kind of get to the stage at which you're at. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So why don't we break it down all the way to the beginning? So today, Besser is one of the leading garage door providers in Southern California.
Correct.
Both primarily residential.
99% residential.
99. And funny enough, you guys did my home. So
We did.
yeah. They're everywhere. Byron's runs a great business. And I'd love to kind of backtrack this story to the very beginning, right? What was it before you even got into the trades? Way back, I think it was in the 90s, you had started. What were you doing prior to that? What brought you into the trades? And maybe tell us a little bit about the inception story.
Sure. So let's go back a little bit further.
Okay.
Originally from South Africa, graduated in 1984. Landed up going to college, did a 4-year degree in college in South Africa in marketing, financial management, and accounting, and then landed up doing the military for 2 years. In those days, you had to do your military service. Coming out of the military service, I decided I wanted to become a CPA. So I started doing what they call articles. You had to work for a company for 3 years, and then only then could you go do your board or your honors exam. And after doing it for 6 months and just taking a red pen and basically just auditing and reconciliations, I asked my boss at the time, is this what I'm going to be doing for the next 3 years? And he said, kind of. And I said, no, I can't do this. So I looked around to see what I could do, got involved in a security company. But in those days, South Africa was very crime-ridden. So I opened a company called Safe and Secure. That's where the name came from. Started off in house alarms and automation with obviously the crime rate coming up, and then with all the politics, and then Nelson Mandela being released in 94 and the violence and everything we went through, decided to give my kids a better opportunity. At that point, I had one child. She was born in 93. So we immigrated here in 94. We came to San Diego, and in terms of getting papers to come to the country, I had to do what's called an L1 visa. So I did an L1 visa, which is an intercompany visa. What that means is you got to keep the same name that you had there, and you have to have the same relationship. So I formed a company called Safe and Secure. So that's where the name Safe and Secure comes from. It's not from anywhere else. It was purely because I had to keep the same name. I brought with me a security product, basically like an accordion-style gate, like you would see in commercial applications. But this was designed for residential. In South Africa, the crime rate was terrible. It was the murder capital of the world. Everybody had burglar guards on their windows. So this was a neat product, an accordion behind a drape. And at night, you would fold it down and obviously extend it. Thought I would be the next billionaire coming to America with a product that was never here. And attended the Del Mar Fair, which is the San Diego Fair today. It's a 3-week trade show. Built myself a little mock house, put up some samples on the walls and on the windows. I got my contractor's license, which is the same contractor's license as it is now. And I was absolutely stone dead. I just worked it for 3 weeks solid. You got 1 day a week off. We were at the show from like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and just couldn't do a sale. Well, the booth right next to me, and you become friends with your neighbors at trade shows, was a garage door company. And it was a bunch of older retired people that were being their salesmen, and they were manning the booth. And they were saying to me, you young, you energetic, why don't you install garage doors? And that's how I started in the garage door industry. So that was in 94. So because I was desperate and didn't have one sail in my accordion style doors,
Yeah.
I decided to start garage doors. So went out to areas that they told me to go, went and found the manufacturers, went to something called Kinko's, which is probably something you don't know.
Kinko's, yeah, the print company.
Yeah,
Yep.
made myself a little flyer and went walking, literally knocking on doors on Saturdays, house to house, handing out flyers for new garage doors.
Wow.
Sold my first door, learned how to install it myself, reading the manuals, going backwards and forwards to the manufacturers. And that was back in 1994. So that's how
So,
Zacure came about.
but the first client, so you had gone and printed out flyers and then walked door to door selling doors.
Correct.
Repairs, new
I was
install.
trying to sell new installs. In those days, they were $599 a door. Back then, we had what we called shin busters. There were those wood one-piece doors that tilt up. Obviously, in this climate, there wasn't snow or anything like that. You wouldn't see it in the rest of the country.
Yeah.
And the craze was just starting in the mid-90s, coming out of the early 90 recession, and everybody thought, sectional doors, it's time to do. So it was a pretty hot commodity at the time because nobody had them.
Yeah.
And that's how I started.
Wow. And then what was the journey like after that? So you sell your very first door, you get, some.
Journey was pretty interesting. It was pretty tough. I knew nothing about garage doors, I have to be honest, but I understood sales. So I convinced the people to give me a try. When I got the first sale, went to the manufacturer, bought a door, read the book the night before, tried to see how to install it. YouTube wasn't a big deal 32 years ago. And went to my first install. My first install took me 13 hours, and I think I left that job probably 2 or 3 times, blaming the manufacturer for leaving something out of a hardware kit and going back there and hoping to kind of get some help from him and doing it. So I self-taught myself. Very humbling experience. I was working out of my home, obviously, at that point, answering the telephones, running leads, not that I had many leads to do. And then I would obviously go pick up the doors. When I sold them, I would sell them myself. I'd install them myself. And it's nice when you can reflect back on how you couldn't even pay your rent because you didn't finish the garage door installation and you used all your money to buy the product and you couldn't pay for it until you were paid. But really humble beginnings. And that's 32 years ago.
How long did you kind of do that, like one-man show where it's just you running everything, the whole stack?
I did it till it was about 97, roughly 97.
Okay.
I tried the best that I can, and I was making a decent wage. In those days, a decent wage for me was about $3,000 a month, $3,500. That's all I needed to support my wife and my one child.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. And then I used to play recreational soccer.
Okay.
And I ended up breaking my leg.
Oh.
And I couldn't install. I couldn't climb a ladder. I couldn't do anything. So I went to the local dealers and was talking to the guys that would come pick up doors, and they referred me to somebody. And I was forced to pick up my first installer, and I would subcontract him because I couldn't do the work myself. So that's how I originally started. That was back 97, 98 when I took on my first installer. Panicked because I had to pay him now to install the doors, and now there wasn't enough money for me. So I had to go out and keep selling. And then I was able to sell more doors so that he would put in 2 doors a day. And then eventually when my leg got better, I'd put in 1 door a day. And so we built up.
Wow, that is incredible. So so it's from between 94 to like 97, 8, it was just you. And
Just me.
so for 3 years, it was just you doing it.
Just me.
Wow. And then after that, so what was the journey like of after that? Okay, you pick up your first installer. How did your role kind of change? And then when was it after that that you started to bring on more labor to kind of help?
So as I was selling more doors, obviously I needed more people. And then I started seeing that, again, as I said, in the late 90s, this was a new thing in California.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everybody wanted sectional doors. So it was a new craze, and you couldn't sell them fast enough or install them fast enough. So a lot of it was timing. I got lucky. And then, of course, I brought on the second installer and the third installer. And then I got myself a little place in San Diego on Miramar Road. It was like the main road dividing the county, still is.
Yeah.
Opened a little shop because I needed a little warehouse to put stuff on. And so we carried on building. And then a good friend of mine, who became a good friend of mine, worked for a newspaper called the Union Tribune. And back in those days, they had something called the TV Guide. They used to publish it every Sunday, and you used to put on your coffee table, and inside it had your lineup on TV for the week. And now you got it on your screen, but
Yeah.
then you had it in a magazine. And there was a casino called Sequan Casino that used to advertise on the back page. And it was always either face up or face down but everybody used it. So he called me one day and he said to me, hey, these one people are dropping 1 week. So before I let Sequan go every week of the year, you can have every 4th week if you want to try it. And I said to him, well, I can't afford to do that. He said, trust me, do it once. And I said, well, that's like my whole rent for the month. Anyway, I did it once and never looked back. And the amount of calls we started getting was unbelievable. So the late 90s, early 2000s, we really started building up a big retrofit business. And then we had a little showroom and we moved to a slightly bigger place. And then I had a very, very interesting situation happen to me. A president of a very large construction company came to my shop to get a remote control. And we so happened to have installed his door the day before, but I didn't know. I was just in the office. And we started talking, and he's asking me questions, and I gave him all the answers he wanted. And he said, you know who I am? And I said, no, I don't know who you are. So he told me, he said, have you ever thought about doing new construction? And I said, no. And he said to me, well, I got some contracts I want to give you. And then I started building up in that. So we grew from 94 to 2004. We went from literally doing maybe 50 grand a year to doing about 10 million a year in 2004. Wow. And then obviously we became a little bit complacent because new construction was absolutely booming. And there were all these millionaires being made by Qualcomm went public, and there were all these young people making a ton of money and buying money, and housing was going just booming. Everywhere you looked, there was new housing tracks. So we kind of got complacent and gave up on our retrofit a little bit. Yeah. And started focusing on new construction. We didn't need salespeople. We didn't need advertising. I was getting clever. Yeah. And at the same time, I came across, I've been very involved in the trades. So I'll go backwards a little bit. The two things I learned coming to America. One was the word entitlement. The other one was the word networking. So coming here, not going to school, I didn't know anybody, but nobody. So one of the things I started to do was try to look up trade organizations and places where I could join. That's obviously how I got involved in the International Door Association. I think I'm one of their longest members. I've been there for 30 years already.
Oh my gosh.
And that's how I learned. You go to these events, you'd meet people, you read their magazines, you read their articles. And then there was a local chapter called the California Operator and Door Association, was called CODA. I ended up getting involved in that. I actually was president of that for 4 years back in the mid-2000s. And along the way, I met a gentleman by the name of Brian Besser, where Besser Garage Doors comes from. And he was in Orange County, and he was looking at retiring, and he did a lot of service, and we weren't doing service. We were just either new construction or retrofit, but mostly just installs. Anyway, one thing led to another, and we ended up buying him out. It was actually the 1st of August, 2005. So just celebrated 20 years with that. Yeah. So we added that to our trade name. So Safe and Secure is still our corporate name, but Besser Garage Doors is our trade name. Yeah. 2007 and 8, we saw the massive crash, and new construction came to an absolute grinding halt. And we went from 10 million to 2 million within 1 year. I mean, literally like that. And then it was a case of how do you survive? What do you do? And I just kept persevering, and we started focusing more on the residential retrofit and service market. And in 2008, I actually landed up closing down the San Diego operation and moving to the Orange County operation, because Besser was in Orange County. Safe and Secure originally was in San Diego. And we started building from that. And we managed to keep building up and rebuilding from where we were. And 20 years later, it's a little different.
You mentioned one of the things when you came from South Africa was entitlement in America. What did you exactly mean by that?
So Americans, and not to be offensive, they come from an entitlement type of mentality. Sure. They take everything for granted. So I'll give you an example. I came here, I struggled to get that trolley door going, couldn't get it going, needed to buy a truck just to install garage doors, couldn't get credit because nobody knew who I was. So I had to go get a loan. Of course, nobody would finance me because I didn't have credit. So I went to the stores, Macy's, Sears, all the stores that probably aren't even in business today. And I went from store to store in a shopping mall in UTC in San Diego to try get credit. And of course, all it did was deter it even more because everybody was refusing me. So my credit really looked bad, and they were refusing me because I never had credit. So there's just so many things that the American people took for granted, and being an immigrant, that it's just not available to you. So finance wasn't available to me. You couldn't lease anything. You couldn't do anything. It was, a lot of people have asked me why immigrants are so successful, and they're just generalizing. And I think because the opportunity afforded to them is a clean start, and B, they have to work hard to get to where they are. They can't just take things for granted. And I would like to say that was more the entitlement that I'm referring to. They just feel that, oh, we're entitled to this, or we're doing that. And we don't have those luxuries. We don't have unemployment. We don't have medical. We don't have Social Security because you are nothing, until you build it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it builds this like humble nature in what you do. You get to these points and you feel it's really interesting. And then what about so you talked about the 2008 crash, which I'd be interested to hear even more about, but the .com bubble, did that have any impact on the trades in your business specifically?
It's very interesting because from a marketing point of view, back in the day, Yellow Pages was what Google is today, except Yellow Pages was obviously in print media. And then Yellow Pages became a monopoly, and then they started dividing their areas. And instead of having an Orange County Yellow Pages, they divided it somehow into 4 regions: South Orange County, North Orange County, Central Orange County. They started duplicating the costs and the same ads, and eventually it kind of outpriced itself. And you started off by being a little line item, and then a quarter page, and then a half page, and then a full page, and then a double truck. And so it carried on. And then slowly, obviously, as everything revolutionized, we started going to the .com era, and then everything started becoming online, and people started looking at the online. And today, no offense to Google, because we do pretty well on Google, but Google's, to us, almost another Yellow Pages now. So now it's become a bidding war, and now it's different categories and different keywords, and the more keywords you add, the more money you spend. But definitely changed it. What it has done, though, is it's educated the consumer, some for good, some for bad, because not everything out there is good information. But at least the consumer's more educated what they want, how they want to do things, and I think that's pretty helpful for us.
Yeah, interesting. And then in 2008, you watch your business grow from all these new construction contracts. Everything is being built. All of a sudden, the entire market crashes. 10-2, you said, was the number. How, do you, one, deal with that as an owner-operator? You have, employees, you have payroll, you have all this sort of stuff. But then how did that change how you approach the business? I'm sure it changed, your just general...
Yeah, there's a lot of things that changed. The one thing that changed is I had 2 choices. I either had to liquidate the company and start again, or I had to work through it. I chose to work through it, and to be quite honest with you, we'll go back to the word entitlement. My accountant said to me, just liquidate the company, start again. And I said to him, I cannot do that. And he said, why can you not do that? Everybody does it. I mean, it's just, I hate to say American way, but it's what happens. A business fails and you start again and you get up. And I said, well, there's 2 things. One, I was never raised that way. If I had incurred debt, I was responsible for my debt. But 2, I wasn't a citizen yet. In all that time, I had all my paperwork, I had my visas, I converted to a green card, and I was concerned that if I went insolvent, it would jeopardize my chance of becoming a U.S. citizen. So I decided just to persevere. So what do we have to do? We had to obviously rethink of how we went to market. We renegotiated with our manufacturers. Some of them were pissed with us because we owed them a crap load of money. And the money we owed them was because the builders went insolvent. And unlike me not knowing what I was doing, the builders had separate LLCs for every development. So what do? They liquidate an LLC. They sell those assets to a new company. I didn't know anything about that. Now I know, but then, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
And off we did and just persevered and started literally from the ground back up. Fortunately, we had some business. We had stickers on the doors, very big in our industry for putting stickers on. People called us. We started building up the service, and we started focusing more on servicing customers and selling new doors. And We still do new construction today, but it's a smaller portion of our business. So we've kind of figured out how to actually put the business in a more powerful position. So if new construction's up, great. If it's down, that's okay. You got service, you got retrofit. I think in an ideal world, and I think it applies to any trade, you got to diversify. And that doesn't mean you need to diversify in the product you offer, but diversify in the services you offer. So again, they all complement each other. They're never all running full throttle. There's always one down, one up.
But it's almost as if you had to like rebuild the business, right? You did this once in 94 to 2000, right? And you built this business, I mean, up until 2008. And then all of a sudden you have to rebuild again. It's like two businesses in one.
We did rebuild. And to top it all, I got divorced in 2005. So I was left with, I don't say left, it sounds bad. I had the responsibility of 3 young girls. They were 5, 8, and 11. And I didn't have a choice. I mean, you got to go out and you got to buckle down and you got to work and you got to build it up. So rebuilt it from 2008, continued to build. This time, hindsight was 2020. So we positioned ourselves in a much better position than we were originally and just continue to keep growing every day.
It's like you restarted the business with just this wealth of knowledge of 15, 20 years of running it, right?
I think so. I think, most people, and I don't want to say most, maybe it's a generalization, but you read about it all the time. A lot of people that are entrepreneurs or went into business failed their first time, some even their second, some even their third. I'd like to call it a school fee, so to speak. I mean, it wasn't fun at the time, but it teaches you a lot. It teaches you to be humble. That's the primary reason I'm still involved in the Door Association. I'm actually currently president of the International Door Association. My goal is not personal gain. My goal is to give back to the industry that's done so much for me. And if I can teach others to just get one good tip out of it that will help their business, I feel I've succeeded, because I wish I had that when I started and going to all this. That's how I learned. So I just want to share the knowledge.
Incredible. Yeah. I mean, you've really seen it all from the beginning to the .com to the 08 to, I mean, we'll get into where we're at now. So what was it like after 2010? You start rebuilding, you're in the servicing kind of, what is that journey like in 2010s and onwards?
It's actually interesting. So we started rebuilding, diversifying out of the new construction and getting more into the residential retrofit and service market. In 2014, I was able to buy my first building, which was a huge accomplishment after what was before. I'm a firm believer in buying your own building and paying yourself rent versus paying somebody else rent, because you're going to pay rent anyway, so you may as well just expense it and get an asset at the same time. That was a big thing for us. I think if I could give one tip to any business owner that rents place, is try buy your building as soon as possible. And as high as the prices are, you're still paying rent. So you can do a reverse calculation, look how much your rent is, work it out on a mortgage, and go find something that's going to, be more or less the same. Obviously, it's a deduction as well. So we saw that grow. We continued to grow. And then, of course, technology started growing as well. There were all these new CRM programs, all the new marketing ideas, all ways to do it. So try to stay as current as possible, which helped us probably get to where we are today.
Interesting. And then I forgot to ask, and usually I'll ask this later on, but like in those moments of like building the business at the beginning and then 2008 comes around, there are a lot of tradesmen out there right now that might be going through something similar to that, where it's a very difficult time in the business. What do you have to kind of share with them, right? What piece of advice would you give?
I'd like to give a lot of advice. I don't know if it's all good advice, but I think the most important is to stay focused. Everybody looks at the next best thing. Everybody looks at expansion. They don't own their market. So we had an interesting discussion on this at one of the webinars I was on. Somebody said, hey, I'm thinking of expanding from hypothetically San Diego to Orange County. And we said, okay, why? And they said, Orange County has just got a better income ratio and people are more affluent and there's more opportunity. And we said, well, how much do you do in revenue in San Diego? Well, it works out that it's not even 1% of the market share in San Diego. So my attitude is would build on what you have and rather get to a certain point, because the grass isn't always green on the other side. It's not just, and then all of a sudden you land up with multiple locations and multiple rents and bigger problems and land up losing it. So I would say really buckle down, stay focused, We saw, I would say, in the late 2010, early 2010s, 12s, 14s, and particularly COVID. I think COVID was a game changer for everybody in the home services. I think anybody that didn't make money in home services in COVID probably shouldn't have been in business. And those that did make money, because they were new in the business, they didn't know what to do with their money. So they'll end up buying boats, they'll end up buying Harley Davidsons, they'll end up buying big houses, and then all of a sudden you go to the post-COVID where we are right now, and the economy changes again, and now they're left with all of this. So
Yeah.
you really got to be humble. You really got to save. You really got to put your money away. You got to reinvest it in the business, and just remember from where you came, I guess, is the
Yeah.
biggest lesson.
Right. So between 2010, wow, you've really been through all of it. So the .com, '08, and then also COVID. So in 2010 to 2020, primarily servicing residential work. When COVID did hit, what impact did that have on your business? Positive, negative?
Initially, we thought the world came to an end, but and looking back and into it, it's probably the best thing that happened to our industry. So I'll give an example. Product became a real issue. You couldn't get, there was such a shortage of supply, and the demand was so great. So people were working out of home. They were not working out of their offices. They weren't spending any money. So they started doing home improvement projects that they never did before. And of course, now that they were there, they wanted it, and prices were up. So they were paying more money, and up prices meant more money for us. We still did a lot of new construction. As I said, we still do, but nowhere near the ratios that we did before. Homes needed to close, people needed doors, and the price was the price. And it's one of those things. Do you absorb the price, or do you pass on the price? So that's the other lesson you can give other business. A lot of people price based on their competition, but that's a careless way to price. You need to price on your expenses, on your needs, on your costs, on everything that you do. And we're very good about passing on price increases. If we get a price increase for 5%, you're getting a price increase for 5%. So some people were a little short-sighted. They gave up margin. So I'll give you just a numbers example. If a door costs $500 and they sold it for $1,000, if the door now cost $1,000, they sold it for $1,500 instead of $2,000. And they were saying, well, I'm still making the $500. What they didn't realize is the gross profit margin went from 50% to 33%. And then they started saying, but hey, I'm doing all this business. Why am I losing money? Well, that's exactly why you're losing money. You left 17% on the table. Very important to pass on the price increases. I don't think any of us can absorb them ourselves. And I think it's very transparent to do, but I think it's very good business acumen to do. So we saw a lot of positive from that, and we actually started getting value for our doors that people never saw before. So an example I'll give you quickly, since you're in the trades, is a water heater. Just a regular water heater that you see in your parents' or your house garage. A water heater, if it bursts, it ends up costing you $2,500 to replace. The cost of a water heater, you can go to Home Depot, is $400. Okay, so they're taking a $400, $500 water heater, they're selling it for $2,500. $2,000 is probably the convenience of picking it up, the labor, the knowledge, and putting it in. For the garage door industry, if you go to Home Depot and you buy a garage door opener, you can buy them for $300. Okay, if you sell it for $1,000, people would think you are the biggest crooks in the market, but it's okay to do that. It's just the way people perceive the industry and perceive the value of the industry. So you got to keep your prices up there. You got to believe in what you do. We believe very much in who we are, and we believe we're worthy of a certain price. And if you don't want to pay the price, we totally understand that.
Yeah.
But we give you the service and the backup and the support that you deserve, and that's what you're paying for.
Yeah, and I think that feeds really well into like like the trades is a people game, right? We at the end, it is humans going in there and providing a service. How do you establish operating principles amongst your team? What are those operating principles? What have you learned, obviously, in the past 30 years in doing it?
So it's come, I don't want to say a full circle. I would say it's 180 degrees. It's very different to the way it was. We've put in a lot of systems that we never had in place, standard operating procedures, from price books to how we do things, to core values, to mission statements, to everything that goes with running a proper business that was neglected in the trades. The trades used to be a bunch of plumbers with plumber cracks, their pants falling down when they're working, and that's how we were known. Today, the trades are becoming much more professional. So you're sitting in a situation where people are learning to do it the right way, and we've been very successful in doing that. So the biggest problem for us was, in the past, your dad, my dad, all our parents, my son's going to be a lawyer, my son's going to be a doctor, my son's going to be an accountant, whatever my son's going to be. And there was absolutely no attention paid on the trades. We did a little exercise, which I thought was pretty interesting, and we took an average college education. And we said, well, if we take a college education, and let's say you go to an in-state school in California, and it's a half-decent school, probably $20,000 to $30,000. And if you multiply that by 4 years, you're looking at $100,000. And when you come out with that degree, and it's just, I don't want to say it's a base degree, but it's not a speciality, I don't know, social work or whatever it is, or whatever you do, you're probably going to get a job at about $50,000 to start, give or take, and unless you're really a qualified professional. So what we started doing is we built a training program where we take kids that are very, very well-rounded, very, very good technically and with their hands, but they're not necessarily students, and we run them through a training program. Our training program is about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the person. And during that time, they paid, and they're not well paid. We start them at $20 an hour, but they're getting paid to learn a trade, basically. And then we have a set program for them. So they go to a junior tech, to a senior tech, to a lead tech, to a field supervisor. But we lay that out from the groundwork. But we're seeing that our average technician that we train, by the end of year one in service, he's already earning $80,000 to $100,000 a year. So we're saying, do you want to go to school for 4 years and pay those fees and still come out? Or in 4 years' time, you're a lot ahead. Plus, what we are seeing is, especially now AI, and I know we were talking off this podcast before, a lot of jobs are going to get replaced, but I don't think that the trades are going to be replaced as fast. So we see that a lot. There was another talk I listened to the other day where they spoke about electricity, and they spoke about a light bulb, and everybody said, oh my God, what's going to happen to these 1,000 guys that walk around lighting the street lights with a candle and everything else? Well, they turned into 1 million electricians, because now all of a sudden you needed electricians. Well, the electricians aren't going anywhere. The plumbers aren't going anywhere. The garage doors guys aren't going anywhere. And if you want to use it as a basis, just have a look at the PE world today. The PE world, number one investment right now is in the trades. I mean, you saw it. HVAC has been going crazy since, I would say, the beginning of 2010 onwards, and continues to go crazy. And why? Because they're realizing that these are professions. They're not trades as people know. They're professions, and they're opportunities that aren't going away.
And I totally agree. And I think the tradesman is never going to go away, in that, a very long time from now, maybe there are robots that can do what a technician might. But even then, it's very tough to imagine a robot going in and, doing the things on a door, going in a duct, or replacing a heater, whatever. I think AI is a multiplier for the trades. There are some job functions that maybe could be replaced to some degree, but the going out in the field and doing that sort of thing, that is absolutely a multiplier. That program that you're talking about, is that something that you guys developed at Besser?
Yeah, we developed our own in-house program. I mean, there are several other companies. We're not unique to everybody else, but we've developed our own program. The biggest problem we see today is the shortage of labor, and that's human manpower, that's human capital, and the only way you're going to get what you want is to train them.
Right.
And that's what we're learning. We train them our way, which we believe is the best way, which is the right way, and get exactly what we need out of them. But we also give them that education, give them that opportunity, and when they're done with us, they're pretty highly trained. And I'll give you a very good example that happened to us just literally a month ago. We took a technician, a trainee guy. He had absolutely no experience whatsoever in the garage door industry. And we started to train him, and he took a little bit longer to train. It didn't take him 6, 8 weeks, took him about 10 or 12, which was fine. Turned out to be a great technician. We put him in the field, and then what happened? He got poached. And this is something that happens all the time, because people can't get good technicians in any trade. So what do? They go steal somebody else's. So they offered him more money than what we offered him. And he came and he said to us, hey, I got another opportunity. And he had been with us 4 months and he's going to go take this opportunity. And we asked him why. And he said, well, they're going to pay him more money. And we said, okay, well, we'll pay you more money too, but you got to get to certain levels, almost like an apprentice program. And he said, oh, no, I'm going now because I can make an extra. It was minimal. It was a couple of $100 a month. So he went. And a month ago, he came back to us and he's back with us full time because he's now learned that the grass wasn't so green. They didn't have systems, they didn't have policies, they didn't have procedures. Today, a trade is not what it was. So we offer full benefits that any other company would have. We have paid vacation, we have sick time, we have medical, we have dental, we have retirement funds, we have uniforms, we give them their vehicles, we pay their allowances. These are things that never ever happened in the trade. But when you go to a person's home, these are things that people expect in their job. So when you go and replace an HVAC unit and you see a lady there, I mean, she's driving a nice car, she's eating out at a nice restaurant, and she's going on a great vacation with her family, and we should be able to too. So it's been quite an educational process, but the trades are definitely getting there right now, and it's better people, happy people. You know, there's a saying, happy wife, happy life. Well, happy people, it's the same thing. You know, they perform. They're not worrying about the next check or the next bill.
And I think it's now coming more like relevant in that like the trades is becoming an attractive place to work and somewhere that you can earn a lot of money straight out of college or straight out of even high school to some degree, right? You don't have to go through 4 years of a lot of student loan debt and all this sort of stuff. And you can come into an organization like yours, learn a lot, at the same time make money. And I think that the younger generations are starting to catch wind of that. It must be so crazy for you, having seen it in 95 and 2000 and 2010. Like, it's now like it's truly a career path. And I think more folks are starting to pick it up.
I agree. I mean, it's been very interesting. So we're seeing a lot of young people come into the trades now, whereas before it was like an old guys network, they would say.
Right.
The IDA, International Door Association, people used to say, oh, this is just an old boys club. You know, your dad did it, so you do it, so you pay your dues once a year. That's all revolutionized and changed. So you look at the young entrepreneurs today, be it in HVAC, be it in plumbing, be it in garage doors, be it in roofing. They're young now and they understand business, but they also do things much smarter than we did. Okay? They understand the technology. They understand the needs of people. They understand the importance. You know, with us, it was like, okay, you're getting paid $20 an hour. Today, it's like, okay, I'm at work now. What are you going to pay me? And it's like, well, we said we're going to pay you $20 an hour. And they're like, well, that was just to show up. They understand the new mentality. They understand paid by performance. They understand sharing in profits. They understand a lot of things that we didn't understand. You know, we used to be nervous. We're not going to share our numbers with you because, oh, God forbid you copy us or do this or do that. They're not like that at all. So it's exciting times. I mean, I've seen the whole evolution, and I'd like to say I've lived the American dream. If you put it in the full sense of it, you know, came here as an immigrant and fortunately built a good business, and thank God in a position that I can do what I want to today. But it's come with a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication and commitment, and the industry's changing for everybody. I think it's a great place for young people to be. I wish more young people would get involved. To be honest.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get them involved. We're hopefully enabling the younger kind of tradesman who's technically savvy to pick up our software and do that sort of thing. So 2020 comes around, COVID hits, great thing for the industry. Now, it's of recent, you guys took on private equity backing. Maybe like just talk through the high level of that. Why do it, how it shifted the business and all that sort of stuff.
It's a very good topic. That's a very interesting topic. Private equity is not for everybody. I'm actually doing a talk on it this week in Las Vegas on Thursday, actually. People have a misconception about private equity. And I think what happened is there's been a frenzy right now. And there's a saying that you're all familiar with, FOMO. Everybody's their fear of missing out is unbelievable. So now that the HVAC industry has been so, I don't want to say overtraded, but in PE, all of a sudden, everything's come to the garage door industry. So the first garage door company that was sold to private equity was A1 Garage Doors. Tommy Miller, phenomenal guy, built a fantastic business. 22, he sold it, not he's 22, in 2022. He sold it to Cortec. He's still involved, but he brought in private equity. And all of a sudden, every PE company opened their eyes and said, oh my God, what are we missing? There's something in the garage door industry. So now today, everybody gets 2 to 3 emails a week, if not more. Hey, thinking about selling your company, and off they go. So everybody thinks that, oh, well, if Tommy Miller could get this or this guy could get that, I can get this. My business is worth that. And some of it's true, some of it's not true. But I think the big thing is, why do you want to take in private equity? What is the benefit of taking in private equity? I was in a very different position. I'm going to be 60, so my attitude was, okay, what's my succession plan? And where do I go from here? So in my case, I brought in a partner 2.5 years ago, gentleman Adam Cronenberg, great guy, very, very experienced in the trades, very, very well versed in service titan. He actually was behind the systems for A1. He started with them in 2014. He put in all the systems that helped them get to where they are today, but definitely to get there where they were then. Once they sold, he had left and he took a sabbatical, and I begged him to help me with some of my systems, and one thing led to another. And anyway, he landed up coming in as a partner, and I thought, this is great. Younger guy, almost 20 years younger than me, thinks differently, done this exercise before, and that's possibly my way out, my succession plan. During the last 2 years, we bought another 2 companies, him and I, very successful transactions, very nice companies that we bought, small companies, tucked them in, as we call it. Things were going very, very well, and the opportunity started coming for more companies, and we ran into a situation where we had the money, but we were a little bit scared to use it. 2 reasons. One, I was reaching more closer to retirement age, and said, well, there's always a risk, as you know, in business. And at this stage of my life, I don't know how much risk I want to take, because I'd rather just be secure. And to Adam's point, very, very similarly, he was part of A1 and he had done well out of their transaction, and he has a secure nest egg, and it's, do you do this? And we actually got approached by multiple private equity companies. We looked at doing deals with 2 or 3 of them. None of them materialized. And then this deal with Trivest came about literally by accident. We were talking to if you want to call them an M&A specialist, I call them a realtor. They just go around calling everybody. And they saw we had bought 2 businesses and brought us more businesses and said, hey, we find businesses for PE companies, and we got a couple that would match your spec that they don't want. And some of them were good. And then eventually the guy said to me, why are you not buying them? And I said, honestly, because we don't have the cash flow to buy them right now. And we made a couple of rookie mistakes. The businesses we bought, we paid cash. We don't like debt. We don't like things over our heads. So we didn't leverage anything. We probably could have bought 10 more if we would have put down money and financed it. But we didn't want to take the risk, nor did we really understand it. And he said, man, if you're looking for money, if that's all you're short of, we have this client, which happened to be Trivest, that's dying to get into the garage door space. Why don't you chat to them? And we thought, it's not another PE company, just what it is. So we landed up speaking to them. And anyway, one thing led to another, and we landed up doing a deal with them last year and becoming their platform company. So we are using our systems nationwide now. So we're pretty well set up in terms of systems. Now it's just a case of adding fuel to the fire and bringing on more companies. So we're going to do it through acquisitions. We're going to do it through greenfielding. We'll do it through a combination of it. And that's why I got into the private equity. But on the negative side, a lot of people get into it for different reasons, and they realize that it's not what they expected it to be. So other than looking at your bank account maybe and saying, hey, I took some chips off the table, a lot comes with it, because they do have the say and they do have controlling interests. So my topic this week, just that you mentioned it, is just telling people and trying to teach them what to look for and what not to, not in necessarily private equity, but what are you expecting out of it? Are you if you just want money to do what you want, go get a bank loan, because it's just not how they work.
Right.
But it has changed us a lot. So we are the platform company for them. I'm the CEO for the whole platform. We actually are closing on another acquisition next week, which is out of state.
Awesome.
We have another one that's closing in the middle of November, also out of state. Nice size companies, and we're going to grow it to a national platform and see what happens from there. So right now it's fun, it's exciting, it's challenging, and it's just nice to see.
Very, very interesting and exciting. I was going to say there's probably a lot of tradesmen out there right now, or I don't want to say a lot, but at least some owners that are in this limbo of, do I take private equity money? Do I not take private equity money? What would be your nugget of advice to those folks that are in that period?
Again, I think it depends on where they are and what they're trying to accomplish. So if it's a way to, if you just don't have a succession plan and you don't have children in the business and you don't have good management and you're looking for a way to exit and retire, it's a great opportunity. If you're looking to grow, you need to partner with the right private equity company, because you got to tie your visions with their visions, because sometimes you don't align. You think it is one thing, but it's not. So I would say definitely speak to other people who have done it and learn from them, And if you're looking at a particular company, whatever that company's name is, speak to people that have transacted with that company and see what their post-transaction was like, not just their pre, because it's like dating, when you go out, everybody's impressive and everybody buys you the best meal, but after time, it's like, wow, it's not always the way you do. So I think the biggest thing in our industry, and I can't talk for the industries you address, is it's still in its infancy. There's not even 1% of all garage doors companies that are owned by private equity. They think there'll be room to go to at least 15% of the market will be owned by private equity. So it's still in its infancy. It's still early. There's always an opportunity for a good business to be sold. Doesn't matter, when that is.
Yeah.
Just tread with caution. It's not for everybody, but for some, it's great.
Yeah. Awesome. So I've got to ask, we typically do this. What is one piece of advice that you would, if you could give to a tradesman on day one starting their business to get to the point to where you're at today and having private equity back, etc. I know we kind of touched on this, but maybe round that out. Like, what would that advice be?
I would say keep it real. I think a lot of people have very, very high expectations, and the expectations are made on just dreams of other people. So you take some people, it's like the top 1% of 1% that really become the billionaires and make it. I listened to a great speech the other day, and I don't want to quote somebody and don't want to offend anybody, but it was on retirement, and the question was given, how much, what is money? That was the question. The question is, what is money? What is money to you? What is money to me? And the answer given was money equals freedom. And the question was, okay, so what does freedom mean? Freedom means you're able to do what you want. Now, for you, maybe it's to have a vacation once a year, to not have to work, to play more golf, whatever your freedom is. So the following question came up and said, well, how much is freedom? Basically, how much money do you need to retire, I think was the question. And the answer was very simple. The first lesson I would give everybody is every spare cent you got, put it in your house and pay off your house. When your house is paid for, you are a wealthy person. And I had this discussion with somebody just before I came here today, and we were talking about it. They in their 70s, and they still owe $230,000 on their house. And I was saying to them, when you pay off that house, you're a wealthy person. I don't want to say guy, I don't want to be sexist, but you really are, because that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, whatever your mortgage is now disposable income. So that would be my first piece of advice. Once your house is paid for, the question is, how much money do you need to live? So it's a long story. So we obviously live in a very affluent area, Newport Beach, Corona Del Mar, Laguna Beach, probably the top 1% of the wealth in the entire country, as people say. But for the most part, just as a rule of thumb, they say that if you could have $5 million, that sounds just, but $5 million, okay, after your house is paid for, and you could earn an average of 5%. You could probably even get 6% if you invested well. You might get more, but I'm not talking about high risk or anything like that. will give you an income of $250,000. But in the US, if you check the statistics and you look at how small the percentage is of people earning $250,000 a year, I think it's less than 1%. Now, I know you obviously see some affluent people earning $1 billion a year, but look at it realistically, it's less than 1 or 2%.
Crazy.
So you could live off $250,000 a year. So that is freedom. So basically, my message that I took from it was set a goal. And if that's your goal, because that would apply across the board. And I listened to them in the room talking, and they went around and they said, do you earn 250 grand a year? And they said, why don't you all put up your hands who actually earns 250,000? You can show me the W-2 that says 250,000 or plus. And there were very, very, very few people. And I said, okay, well, if that's the case, could you live off 250 grand? And everybody's like, oh, yeah, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I can live the life I do, etc. So when you take that into consideration, you're talking about a number of $5 million. $5 million, again, sounds like a ton of money, but it's realistic. When you talk to a lot of people about private equity, they come to you and say, man, oh, and I'm going to sell my business for $1 billion. I'm going to sell it for $100 million. I'm going to sell it for $200 million, for $50 million. And the numbers, I'm not saying it won't happen to you or others, but realistically speaking, they pretty high numbers.
Mm-hmm.
5 million is a nice goal. I think you can build a good business to $5 million and be able to live that freedom. So I would say keep it real. Don't worry about what the next guy does. Do what works for you. And your number might be lower. You might be able to live on 150 grand a year.
Right.
Okay. And that's okay. So you need $3 million. But keep it real. And everybody that I see in the private equity world that's trying to sell, all they care about, what's my multiplier? How much am I going to get? And I think they're looking at it wrong. And it's the same as if you hire an employee. If you give him a target that's unrealistic, what's going to happen? He's never going to hit it. He's going to be unhappy. He's going to leave. If you give him a target that's realistic and he hits it, he's going to be all pumped and excited and like, hey, what's the next incentive? So that would be my advice. If you're looking at it, look at it realistically. Look at it at what your business is really worth or what it's worth to you. My accountant always used to say to me, don't look at it in multiplier. Look at a number and then back it out. Because for you, it might be 2x. For somebody, it might be 10x. Is 10x realistic? Probably no, depending on the trade. Is 2x? Yeah, you might even get 3 and then you've eaten your numbers. So.
What would you have done differently in the tradesman journey?
Wow. I wish I knew a lot of what I knew now. It's if I knew, I would have put systems in a long time ago. Okay, I would have definitely put systems and processes in a long time ago. One of the problems I had is I didn't have a direct career path. If I hired you as a technician and I was training you, you rode with me. There was no, where do we go from here? Well, we'll see. We'll see how you do. And and you just became my helper. And eventually, it's not what people want to see. They want to know, well, if I do this, how do I go from A to B to C to D? So I wish I had that. I think from an accounting standpoint, I think one really needs to keep a tight hand on it and actually keep how can I call it? I want to say manicured, but good books. Okay. I mean, and be realistic and look at it. So, but from everything else I've done, I would say that, I'm happy from where I am. It took me a long time to get here. How would I advise you to start a business? I would say literally use the KISS approach. Keep it simple, stupid, and just, crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And it's not a marathon. I mean, that is a marathon. It's not a sprint, should I say. You're not going to race to the top. Just build it slowly, one brick at a time, and the rest will come.
Yeah. And then where would you recommend, lastly, a tradesman go to pick up these wealths of knowledge and learn about these sort of things? You went to the IDA and you're now the president of International Door Association. Maybe even earlier in that journey, how should they surround themselves to be in the right places?
I think networking, and I think that's the other word I told you. There were two words, entitlement and networking. I would get myself involved in as many network groups as I can. And it doesn't mean if it's the local school things, it doesn't mean, it could be anything, the Chamber of Commerce, it could be learn from other people, surround yourself with people that have been there, done that, and take the knowledge from them, because that's how you gain knowledge. And it could be a trade organization like it was for me, but it could just be, on a football field. It could just be other parents and learning what they do and how they do it, and just picking up tips along the way.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Byron, I've known you for quite some time now. I didn't know this was the whole story. It's truly the American dream. I mean, coming here as an immigrant, breaking your leg and then having to bring in somebody to help you. And you've seen the .com, the recession in 2008, COVID, and now being here today. It's absolutely awesome. Besser is the leading garage door provider in Southern California. I'll say it. Where else can folks find you guys? You guys have trucks obviously driving around, maybe your website, social medias.
So our website's probably the best place, bessergaragedoors.com. Very, very simple. Just keep it easy.
Yeah.
Obviously, we do a lot of social media, so we're all over the social media. We have Pinterest accounts, we have YouTubes, we have Facebooks, we have Instagrams.
Yeah.
But I would say the website's the best place to look for us if you want to. We're very big in branding, and I would tell people that too. Be proud of who you are. So even if you're a rain gutter guy, don't be shy to put your signs on your vehicle. You drive down the freeway here, I'm sure you do too, and you see all materials on these white pickup trucks, and you have no clue who it is. It's just free advertising.
Yeah.
But by all means, bessergaragedoors.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know we have an hour here, but I could talk your ear off. Thanks for the time, Byron.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, you just saw how Byron went from starting from nothing to leading one of the biggest garage door companies in California. His story is proof that the trades aren't just a job. They're a real path to freedom if you do it right. And that's where we come in. At Rebolt, we give tradesmen the support they need to take control of their online presence, empowering them to grow a sustainable, profitable business. So if you're looking for a partner that gets it, see how we've helped over 1,000 service business owners at Rebolt.com. You focus on your trade and let us handle the rest. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one.